Okay, in this video we're going to go over the question variations that are unique to the dual passages, the new dual passages in the reading comprehension section. So we're going to go over the various categories that they're in, and then several examples of the different question types that you'll encounter. Okay, so in terms of dual passage questions, a minority of the questions in the dual passages will be just like the questions in the single passages. You'll be asked to answer a question that involves only one of the two passages. So it'll be an inference or a direct info or method of reasoning, etc. Those kinds of questions. Most of the questions will deal with both passages. A common variation is where the passages are evaluated as separate and distinct, and you are in some way comparing and contrasting them. Now, for the questions dealing with one passage, these questions are analogous to questions for other kinds of passages in the reading comprehension section, and they will always identify which passage you need to look at, and they will generally deal with the main point, inference, or direct info, as well as the other types. So examples might be, which one of the following most accurately expresses the main point of passage A? Or, which one of the following claims about the Roma is not made in passage A? So the first one is a main point question, and the second one is a direct info except question. Now, a major variation for the questions that deal with both passages is questions dealing with both passages where the passages are separate and discrete. For these questions, you'll read through the passages and you'll consider their similarities and differences without thinking about how to integrate the content into a whole, about thinking of the two passages as some sort of whole. And a variation of this subtype is where you're asked to identify some sort of coherence or agreement. So you're looking for a way in which the two passages are the same. And so these questions will be types that we've already gone over. So for example, you might get a question like, both passages explicitly mention which one of the following. And this is a direct info question, and you're looking for information that is explicitly stated in both passages. Or, each of the passages contains information sufficient to answer which one of the following questions. And this is also a direct info question. Or, it can be inferred that both authors would be most likely to agree with which one of the following statements. And this is an inference question. Or, the term problematic has which one of the following meanings in both passage A, line 19, and passage B, line 35. This is a definition question, and the term in question has the same meaning in both passages. Or, which one of the following is a principle that can be most reasonably considered to underlie the reasoning in both of the passages. And this is a principle question where you're asked to determine the principle that justifies the move from the premise to the conclusion. And in this case, both of the passages are extended arguments and are both justified by a principle from an answer choice. So as you noticed here in all of these questions, they ask you to find some sort of similarity between the two passages. Now, another variation is where you're asked to identify some sort of conflict or disagreement. And these questions as well will also be types that we've gone over. So for an example, it'll say, it can be inferred that the authors would be most likely to disagree with which one of the following. And this is like a pointed issue question from the argument section. Or, which one of the following, if true, would cast doubt on the argument in passage B, but bolster the argument in passage A. And this is like a combination strength and weaken question. The answer choice will strengthen the argument in one passage and weaken it in the other. Or another question type. In which one of the following ways are the passages not parallel? So this is essentially a method of reasoning question where you're asked to determine how the structure of the two passages are different. Or you can be asked, which one of the following is discussed in passage B, but not in passage A? And this is a variant on a direct info question. So you're asked to find a piece of information that is found in one of the passages, but not in the other. So if you noticed, all these questions that I mentioned all ask you to find some sort of difference between the two passages. Okay, a yet third subtype of this question type is where you're asked to identify irrelevance. You're looking for a choice that isn't supported by either passage. And these question types appear rarely, and they're basically direct info variations. So it might ask, each of the following is supported by one or both of the passages except. So this is an inference question, and the wrong answer choices are going to be inferences from one passage or from both together, while the correct choice will either be in opposition to information in the passages or irrelevant and not mentioned. So these three subtypes were all question variations that had you looking at the passages as two distinct entities. Okay, You'll also find questions dealing with both passages, where the passages are part of an integrated whole. Now, for these questions, you'll need to pay attention to how the two passages are related to one another and what encompassing themes are that incorporate information from both passages. These questions will generally ask about a relationship between the two passages or about a specific aspect of the relationship. So, for example, which one of the following is true about the relationship between the two passages? Or, the relationship between which one of the following pairs of documents is most analogous to the relationship between passage A and passage B? And this is like a principle / analogy questions from the argument section. Or you might ask, if the author of passage A were to read passage B, he or she would be most likely to agree with which one of the following? And this is like the inference question, but it asks you to extend the perspective of the character from one of the passages into the other. Or, which one of the following most accurately describes the attitude expressed by the author of passage B toward the overall argument represented by passage A? And this is similar to the author's attitude questions. Or, which one of the following can be most reasonably inferred from the two passages taken together, but not from either one individually? And so this is an inference question that asks you to consider the passages as part of a whole. So this question variation asks you to look at the two passages as part of one single organic whole, whereas the other question variations ask you to look at them somewhat separately.